Okay, there's gonna be some noise here today, background noise, in the office. So bear with me. We're finishing the Maamar Bezras Hashem now, and this is the Maamar of Padah Besholom, one of the first of three Maamarim of Behemshech. The Rebbe said in the year Tafshin Lamed Zayin, end of 1976, on Yud Kislev, and then two Maamarim on Yud Kislev about the idea that the Padah Besholom, like the Middle Rebbe says, has to be that the Padiyah, the redemption is Besholom in a peaceful way. And we put it together based on the idea of Lavan through Loiv and Ha'elyon, that through the getting in touch with the Yechidah Nefesh, the essence of the soul, and permeating that into our Avodah, we're able to have a Padiyah that is Beshalom, because there is no counter, there is no negative force that could counter the essence of the Neshama. And to explain that and how we go about doing that was the idea of the Tzon. That because of Yaakov gets empowered by Lavan, and Lavan wakes up in the morning and he kisses Banav Ubnaisav. And Yaakov goes on his way with that empowerment to go and permeate the day and our space with the Lev and Elyon in a way of Padiyah that redeemed, means transforming the world in a peaceful way without having any menagid, any force against, and not having to go through Yisurim, suffering, or difficulties in order to get that. So the tool of that is the concept of Tzon, the idea of bittul. When you have absolute bittul, then you could reach through your Yechidah Nefesh, your essence of your soul, and bring it all the way through into all our Avodah. Now, in the Maamar we explain, just before we go further, in the Maamar that explains the idea of for instance, Alter Rebbe's Maamar Text, that talks about the battle between Yaakov and the angel of Esav. Right? So we know that is the battle. That's one of the battles that is describing the battle between Kedusha, holy, and the forces of evil. And the description of how they fight is a description of the emotional battle, because the intellectual space, the Alter Rebbe explains, the Chacham bin and Das, that the angel of Esav can't fight. What he's struggling with is the resolve. That's why we know all the Maamarim Torah, starting really from now, all the way through Vaychi, goes into the concept of the Meitzer Gorein, that what your head understands and how your body feels, it has to pass through the narrow space of the throat, and that over there is kind of the place where there's the battle. That what you know doesn't always mean what you feel, and you usually, if you don't have a solid emotional stability in kedusha, but even if you know you're supposed to do something, you don't feel that way, and therefore it doesn't translate into the thought, speech, and action, which is the levushim, this is the world of action. So simply from the Alter Rebbe's Maamar, it seems that the struggle of Esav is only with the midos, with the emotions, and with malchus. But it's in the Maamar he says, but in the moyach, in the Keser Chachma Bina, there is no struggle. Now in Keser, what we're talking about, that the Yechidah Nefesh is really the Tainu, the higher place of Keser. But the very fact that there is a separation between the mind and the heart, or the emotion, the intellect and the emotions, is meaning to say that the intellect doesn't permeate. Like I said, Meitzer Garm, you have a narrow space of the throat. It doesn't allow that what you know should be how you feel. But when you reveal the Yechidah Nefesh by definition, you're getting in touch with the level which permeates such a way that there is no separation between the mind and the heart. The very fact, even if Esav can argue it to the mind, and although we have other times it mentions by Maamar, there is the concept of klipa also in the mind. But even if Esav is not arguing in the mind, but the very fact that the mind can be separate from the body, the head can be separate from the body, the head can be separate, the moach, the intellect, to be separate than the emotion, shows a weakness in the intellect. But when your avodah is the tzon, the bittul, that permeates through your entire body, to your entire being, so then the avodah is automatically, then there is no enemy. So he ties it all together. We're going to finish the Maamar, make a short summary. So he finishes the Maamar, the Rebbe finishes the Maamar like this. So we asked the question in the beginning of the Maamar, that why does it say that the Jewish, like it says, that the last counting, the Jewish people counted 9 times throughout history, right? We find Parshas Pekudim the Jewish people counted. David HaMelech counted the Jewish people. The final time the Jewish people are counted, it's going to be with the coming of Mashiach. And then it says, then the Oz Tavorna, then they're going to pass through the sheep, through the moina, through the counter. And the question was, why the Jewish people called sheep? And he quotes from the Maamar that says that when we talk about the greatness of the Jewish people, we say like Ben and Av, or even higher than that, then we're like Tzon and Roya, like the sheep and the shepherd. Meaning to say that the sheep and the shepherd relationship is higher than the son and father relationship. And we explained why. Because in the sheep and shepherd relationship, you're revealing the essence in a way that's beyond anything. Because the father and son, there's still a relationship. So the relationship is defined, but this bittul, nullification that the sheep has to the roya, to the shepherd, in this case, we're representing that kind of absolute bittul that is even beyond the relationship between father and son. Now, so the question is, but what does it mean to us that then we're going to count the sheep through the moina, through the counters? So here he's going to explain and finish off in Avodah also what does it mean the relationship in the chassid and the Rebbe. The Rebbe continues, what does it mean when Mashiach is going to come, the futuristic redemption, like we said before, that the redemption of Mashiach is going to be also in a way that there is going to be no adversaries. It's not going to be any struggle. It's going to be a redemption even greater than Shalom in a peaceful way. Because when you have a peace, a redemption done through peace, is when you reveal the helm, the concealment, the loiv and elyon, that's even higher than any kind of level of the chain of creation. So in order to reveal that, it has to be the fundamental bittul, nullification that like the sheep has to the shepherd. And now he goes, what's the idea of tavorna? What's the word tavorna mean? The word passing through. Something that passes through. Also means from the word kedima, that this is the first thing, meaning to say, like the Gemara says in Psachim, for instance, the Gemara quotes this week's parasha. The Gemara says, how do we know we make a bracha for B'dikas Chametz before we do the B'dika? Because it says, the Gemara answers that all the mitzvahs have to be oiver la'asiyasa. And the word oiver means kedima, means before, as soon as you start. And one of the psukim that they bring as a proof is this week's parsha. Well, oiver lifnei, but Yaakov. The Yaakov goes ahead of the family to approach Esav. What does it mean? What is this kedima? What is this energy before? Is the encompassing energy. But the idea is to take the encompassing energy and not be in a situation of encompassing where you're in an environment of holiness, but to bring it into counting, just like you could count something specifically. And the counting, like we said, Suis Reish, you quoted the pasuk in the beginning of the Maamar. The idea is that counting is a high level, but you're bringing it into saying specifically 1, 2, 3, 4. Although we that idea of encompassing is the opposite of Ma'od Ma'od, which we said that's the idea of Yaakov goes in to bring the Ma'od Ma'od all the way down. To bring the Makiv, which seem to be abstract, into the counting, into the reality. As is explained in the Maamar of Bamidbar about the idea of counting, that we should be meaning any bottle, meaning not that it's that bottle that you can't have a bittul, but doesn't get nullified. The Jewish people don't get nullified. That's where they're counted. So that's the way it's going to be when Mashiach comes. There'll be the 10th counting, but the 10th counting is going to be in the level of revealing the level of the relationship between a tzon, the bittul of the tzon, the sheep have to the mind into the counter. And through the counting, it's going to be us tarboina is going to bring from the level of makiv into pnimi into the way of counting. But what about now? Mashiach hasn't yet come. He's coming soon, but he hasn't yet come. Amen b'ntayim. However, in between, until that time, if maybe as Mashiach said, until Mashiach is going to arrive, like we said before, it's not enough that it's going to be that when Mashiach comes, we have to have it now as well. Is our nasa, and how does this happen? Presently, from the leadership of the Jewish people, the Rebbes, the Nasiya Hador. When we say the Rashi ve'eni Hador, what are we referring to? The Rebbes from the Alter Rebbe, from Baal Shem Tov down till the Rebbe. As is explained in Tanya, the second part of Tanya. The Mashkasef Shituf Imay Mitzrachim. The Rebbe explains, what does it mean that God initially created the world with din, with judgment? Means, what does it mean, judgment? Not harsh, but harsh in the way that it is what it is. 1 + 1 = 2. You do a sin, you get punished. Something that means everything's judgmental. Midas Hadin. It says that God added to Midas Hadin the measurement, the attribute of compassion. What is the attribute of compassion? What does that mean? He added in compassion. So the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya that through the miracles. No, not sure. It's not a Mulitik Maamar, if I'm not mistaken. In Tanya, it says that Oisis Umayvsim and the Tzaddikim. But here he says Oisis Umayvsim, the miracles that are done by the Tzaddikim, that the Tzaddikim who are performing the miracles in the generation throughout the generations, from the Tzaddikim, the leadership, the Nesiya Hadar. That's the idea of Midas Rachman. The fact that there's a concept of beyond nature, the miracles that's in throughout our lives, throughout our days. That's what it means by redemption. And that also happened, that the miraculous redemptions that the Rebbes went through. Because this Maamar again is said about on the redemption of the Mittel Rebbe. On Yud Kislev, Padah Besholom. It's not just that the Rebbes had a redemption, but they had a redemption in a way of Padah Besholom in a peaceful manner. Especially by the Mittel Rebbe's Gula, where his arrest wasn't even, it was a house arrest. It was a much more, it was a high level of miraculous situation in the redemption and imprisonment and redemption of the Mittel Rebbe. When they have this redemption in a way of B'diya B'Shalom by the righteous, especially by the Nesiya Hadar, the Moisef Koyach, this adds energy and empowers the Kol Echad Ve'echad to every single one of HaHoylech B'drachav, those who are the Chassidim of the Rebbe, those who go in their way, the Rachav, in the path of the Rebbe. They showed us and guide us how we're supposed to be. This empowers the Chassid, the Yid, in our Avodah that we should also live within our own life, the level of Vayashkim Lavim Babakol wakes up in the morning. That he kisses and empowers both the Mishpi and the Makabel, the Banim and the Banes. Yibarach Esem and blesses them, that they should be able to even penetrate the S, the Es Atofel, and the Haim, which is Ma, which is backwards, the Bittul, in a person, the Chassid, the Yid, that's connected to the Nasi Hadar, is able to be empowered by the fact that the Nasi Hadar has in their Avodah, the Avodah of this Geula of Padah Besholom. It's not just that the Rebbe gives a chassid and empowers them in a gifted way, meaning it's totally out of your reach. The Rebbe gives us the tools, but we have to be halachal dark. We have to go in and take those tools and be effective. To go out to the world and separate good from bad, kedusha, holiness from impurities, through Torah mitzvahs, shaydei. When a person goes out into the world of Torah mitzvahs, and when each person goes and finds their space of influence. And not just your space within Torah, but even the things that you're struggling with from the other side, till the level that you reach the level of menucha, that you shouldn't be struggling in a way that there's turmoil. But you have menucha, which is calmness. The Shalom the Rebbe is benching every chassid. You're engaging out in the world should be in a peaceful tranquility of ways that should be beyond in our times. With true absolute calmness, with peace and tranquility. We shouldn't go running to Mashiach in a way of chaos, running away from Gullus. We should be able to walk to Mashiach with menucha, with shalva, with shalom. How do we have that power to do that? That we take the wellsprings of Torah out, the wellsprings chutza out to the world. That we don't have to even deal with iskapia, with restraining ourselves, or even the way of transforming ourselves that comes after the restraining ourselves. As we mentioned in the beginning of the Maamar, that we're so broad with the well springs themselves that they're found outside. It means if you have to take this water from the well springs and bring it to the place, so that's like a way of escaping this hapcha. means that the well springs themselves are somewhere else, and we're trying to be effective with the power of the well springs of Chassidus to be effective outside. But no, we have the well springs themselves, chutza, and therefore it's automatically in a way of shalom. That's how you could do it through shalom and shalom and menucha. The canal, as we mentioned before, Shaboikim, Gama Paras. The idea is to break through the separation, the gal, the cryptic letters that are not making sense in our life. Sheben Yaakov and love, and that separates Yaakov and love and attained. That the lower level of love, and that Yaakov breaks through the lower level to penetrate and permeate love in himself. Ashnasim, love and garti. So much so that we could say with confidence that with love and garti, meaning tayag mitzvahs, shamarti, like the beginning of this week's parsha, that in the love and of this world, the darkness of love, and I'm able to be garti, could live in a way of keeping the 630 mitzvahs, shakol mitzvahs, shalom and nepach lies ach v'rak, that the whole purpose of love comes only to be through love and yiyah in love and garti v'tayag mitzvah shamarti. That what's love and's purpose in this world? To bring out that Yaakov could say that I lived with love and I performed the 630 mitzvahs. Like it says in today's chitas, that we go up in the day with Mashiach in the day of judgment. It's not just that through the power of Torah we are empowered, that our Avodah, our work throughout the day, that you take the energy from tefillah, which we said Padah Besholom is talking about when we daven, and we could reveal the chiddush of nefesh, get the focus of Vayashkim Avram Lovin Baboker that it affects Vayashkim Avram Baboker, that our chakras is in a way of freedom, in a way of benucha, in a way of shalom, and that spills over because we have the well springs themselves. And we take that power of davening in the morning, Bismana tefillah nemt durch, and the tefillah takes through, permeates the person. As kolam as less, not just the time of davening, but the full 24 hours of the day. Every day, and everything that's happening throughout the day is permeated with the power of the commitment of the menucha that you have in davening. Because you have like a servant standing in front of master. Just like you were standing by davening, you stand throughout the rest of the day. Because you're above any kind of things that are mavalvu, any kind of things that are confusing you or distracting you. Not even dealing with restraining yourself. It means you're struggling. You're not even dealing with transforming yourself. You're totally nullified. There's no you. You're passionate, an entity of service. It's not about you at all. It's about what you can do. And every minute of the day is an opportunity of love and garti. The whole purpose of love is tayag mitzvah shamarti. It's how you perform Torah mitzvahs throughout your day. Then the person sees the life, the face of the king gives life. And that continues. That through davening you schlep it throughout the day. In your service throughout the day. Yaakov himself, meaning the person, him or herself, leaving this shul, is Yaakov al-Chadarke, going throughout the day by days and then you see how when you're out there in the world, you meet the angels of God. But what level of God? We're saying over here, the angels of Shem Elikim. So seemingly Shem Elikim usually means the Teva. It says but the way it's explained in the Maamarim, we're not talking about Elikim in the limited way, in the concealed way, but the higher level of Elikim, like we learned in the Maamar last week, so like we learned in the Maamar last week, that the Vayit and Cholikim is the highest level of Elikim, is the highest levels of godliness. Mishmani is that he gives us the bracha. The Eibush said from the level of Elikim, we have the bracha of Mital HaShamayim, from the dew of the heaven. Mishmani is in the fat of the earth. Roiv Dog and Besirosh. And as it's explained in Maamarim Shezekoil Linyanim B'Torah, these are all references of Mishnah, Talmud, and Chumash. But the Rebbe says not just that. But we shouldn't take out the literal translation of Ayitin L'cha Elikim. In Yonim Gashmin, the brachas the Rebbe should give us in a material way. God gives and He continues to give and He gives again. As explained in the Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, to the essence, the most concealed, to the essential concealment of God that's beyond any description. The Rebbe says, Kenti, Allah should be for every single individual. That the Karav Mamish with the Geula Pratis that we have throughout the day, in the way of Eitim Chalikim, in the way of Malach Elikim, in the way that we reveal the essence of our soul. And we're in a way of Yechidish B'Nefesh, that there is no escape, no esapchish, menucha, And Shalom, so it should be because Mamish should be as Mashiach Tzidkenu with the coming of Mashiach. So this ends this. It's difficult, but a fascinating Maamar. The Maamar, the idea of putting it all together, of Yaakov Avodah, Yaakov Elchadarke, that he's empowered from Lavan, and the ikar is that we have to find the way to tap into our Shalom, to our Padah Besholom, Padah Menucha. We don't have to be not full of anxiety, not full of stress, not full of even any kind of consequences of the struggle. But when you're like a Tzon, when you have the level of Tzon of Bittul, Avda Kamemori, you're standing there absolutely focused on the mission. So then all obstacles falls apart, and we should be able to be zeichetak with all the brachas that Rebbe gave us and benched us. And I don't know that we're going to continue learning this Hamshech next week. We have to see. Maybe we'll see. Maybe tomorrow we'll start the Maamar of Yitas Kislev. But they're all long Maamars. I don't know how we could finish all three before Yitas Kislev. But we'll make a plan over the next few hours, and we'll decide. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining. Hope for those who joined the whole Maamar, the whole 7 classes, it's been a long time, but Baruch Hashem, we finished the Maamar. Have a wonderful day.